Robin Buckley is a supporting character in the popular Netflix series Stranger Things. She's most well known for being the first character on the show to be openly gay. Her coming out scene being one of the most famous scenes in the show to date. She is constantly held on a pedestal for being the perfect example of how to do representation right. But this is wrong. For many reasons, Robin is not only bad in terms of representation, but also from a writing perspective. She represents the industry's need to force in an unneeded and even inconsistent character trait just for the sake of representation. Robin doesn't represent gays and lesbians, she exploits them. Let me explain. Robin is introduced in Season 3's Susie Do You Copy as Steve Harrington's co-worker at Scoops Ahoy. The show wastes no time establishing her personality and important character traits. By episode 4, Robin is set up to be a sarcastic, cunning, intelligent, and independent woman, standing on her own without Steve while being able to compliment him while they are together. Throughout the season, we see Steve and Robin grow closer, much closer than just friends. This is intentional and is the best written part of the overall laughably bad Season 3. That is until episode 7 of the season, The Bite, where we finally get the coming out scene. The scene stands really well on its own, but once you take in the context of the entire season, this falls apart. Robin coming out as gay may be the dumbest decision the show could have made. Up until this point, Robin is written as a love interest and only a love interest. There are multiple hints throughout the season that she is in fact into Steve. Their friendly little rivalry is not written for them to be just friends, it's purposely written in this somewhat flirty way. Steve's arguing with Dustin and Steve's arguing with Robin have a tonal difference. These two have chemistry, not platonic, but romantic. If you still don't believe me, Maya Hawke confirms in an interview that Robin was in fact Steve's partner-to-be up until about halfway through filming.
When did you realize she was going to be falling for a girl and not a boy?
Well, she doesn't fall for a girl within the show. She just doesn't fall for a boy and comes out to him. I don't know, the Duffer Brothers and I and Sean Levy had a lot of conversations throughout shooting, and it wasn't really until we were shooting episode 4 and 5, I think, that we made the final decision. It was kind of a collaborative conversation, and I'm really, really happy with the way that it went.
Robin's coming out scene being a last-minute change hurts the narrative overall. The show still portrays it like they are into each other on purpose, not to throw the viewers off, which makes this scene not a clever twist, but poor writing. Season 3 Robin is not a queer character. She's a straight character with the label just to increase the view count of the series. Robin being gay would not be a problem if the Duffer Brothers were able to integrate it into the story, but the change was made with absolutely no effort. Even with this issue, I was willing to let it slide if Season 4 was able to stay consistent with this character, but it gets so much worse, to the point where not only does Robin become poorly written, but so does her other half. Steve's Season 3 arc stays intact even with the last-minute change. Whether he gets with Robin or not, he still learns to let go of his popularity by growing closer with Robin. And in the end, wishing he had learned this lesson earlier. Even with how poorly it was handled, Steve's character had places to go after this, no matter the outcome, but this choice directly affects his arc in Season 4. In Season 4, we see a Steve that is still somewhat into Robin, but then we backtrack on his character and make him still hungover from Nancy, so the entire season he's chasing after his Season 1 love interest. All the character development in Season 3 is undone because of this. While in most aspects this is still the Steve Harrington we know and love, the show choosing to prioritize the representation that isn't important to the plot harms him overall. And this leaves the question, what is next for Steve? The answer is simple. Nothing. They ruined the best character in the show. Getting to Season 4 Robin, it's even more of a mess. Like we stated before, Robin in Season 3 is established as a sarcastic, cunning, and independent woman. This is what makes her still an overall delight to have on screen despite her poor writing. From the first scene in Season 4, something feels off about this character. It's unclear what it is until Robin and Nancy meet in Season 4, Episode 3, The Monster and the Superhero. Upon meeting Nancy, we get a glance at how Season 4 Robin is actually portrayed. Robin becomes a cowardly, overdramatic, and slow mess. The show turns her into the lesbian stereotype while completely erasing what made her so likable in Season 3. Robin caught onto Steve and Dustin's shenanigans within an episode, cracked the top secret Russian code within a day, and was willing to let herself die to save Dustin and Erica. But I'm supposed to believe that Season 4 Robin, who panics about any minor thing, constantly seems like she isn't confident in her own abilities and doesn't contribute anything meaningful to the team, when she's arguably the smartest of them, is the same character? Robin in Season 3 is able to be relatable in her unpopularness and even make you feel bad at times, while Season 4 Robin makes sure to go through every introvert and lesbian stereotype on the board. This character is just a mess, and it's hard to believe this is considered the standard for this type of representation in media. This character just adds onto the long list of poorly written queer characters in pop culture. There have been very few exceptions to this list I have seen. If your character's sexuality isn't important to the plot, you can touch on it without taking away from the main story. This is the case with characters such as Gustavo Fring. Clearly this meth kingpin's sexuality isn't important in the slightest in the grand scope of the Breaking Bad universe, but it is touched upon a few times whenever it is relevant. If it's important, don't dive into every stereotype created for this group. The best example I can think of is Elton John in Rocket Man. Granted, the character played by Taron Egerton is quite literally a real person, but the film is an extremely fictionalized take on Elton's life, so I believe that makes it a reasonable comparison when bringing up fictional characters. Elton feels as if he's unworthy for love, seeming to not get it for his entire life, whether it be from his absent father, who never even wanted him in the first place, or his mother, who didn't give a care in the world about him, or his manipulative boyfriend turned manager, John Reed, who brought him to his lowest and most desperate state. This feeling of unworthiness leads to him pushing away the people who do care for him, which is something he never fully recovers from, but he gets past this feeling. As the film states, he's still standing. Elton is a deep character who we can relate to in more ways than one, all the good and all the bad. Robin, on the other hand, is stuck with something as simple as a high school romance. There are no stakes to her story. She is given the exact same story as every other character in the show, but the minor difference being that she is gay is barely explored. This is the 80s, and they barely explore what can happen if people find out about it. Rocket Man spends time going through the consequences, whether it be Elton being rejected by the people he cares about because of it, or having to scramble to make a cover-up so his sexuality doesn't get out. Elton has things to lose. Robin has nothing to lose. Anyone who finds out she's gay conveniently is cool with it. Sure, she says she has something at stake.
You ask out a girl and she says no. Big deal. Nothing happens. Maybe your ego's a little bruised, but I ask out the wrong girl and bam, I'm a town pariah.
But we never see examples of this. It's just talk, no consequences. While yes, Elton does end up with little to no consequences, the major consequence is his talk with his mother.
I'm a homosexual.
For God's sake, I know that. I just hope you realize you're choosing a life of being alone forever. You'll never be loved properly.
Bam, I'm a town pariah.
This is also a problem with Will. Why does everyone conveniently support it? His friends, his brother, everyone. There are no consequences to them being gay in the 80s. Stranger Things should not be held on the pedestal it's on. Its representation is just as bad as any other, but because it's a popular show, it gets a pass. Enough is enough. If you want good representation, watch Rocket Man, a film that doesn't insult your intelligence, a film that actually has more of a reason to exist than to make a quick buck. Hell, watch the Lego Batman movie, another film with amazing representation, but please, for the love of God, stop supporting this show and this character.
Eat meat on a Friday, that's alright. Even like a steak on a Saturday night. I can ditch the best at your social dues. I get high in the evening, sipping pots of glue. Oh.